Hi everyone, welcome. It's great to be with you today. Thank you for joining to watch this video. My name's Darren Katina. I lead the confirmation program at Sacred Heart, and I do that jointly with Claire Shah. And so I lead on the content and the delivery of the sessions, and Claire leads on the liturgy, the organisation, and everything else. So I wanted to put together a very brief video just to introduce our ideas about how we're planning to deliver the rest of this course virtually. So obviously we're doing this because of COVID, and I'm hoping that a lot of what I'm going to share in this video will just be a useful reminder for our confirmation candidates and for their parents. But I'm hoping it might also be useful for their sponsors and for anyone who might be just interested in knowing a little bit more about these videos and how they were put together. So as you'll see from the other videos, they're all based around some PowerPoint slides that I've created. And these are the slides that we would have shown to the candidates if we were meeting face to face. And so for continuity, what I've done is just create a very brief set of slides for this video. And so let's move to those now. So as I said earlier, we're delivering the course virtually because of the COVID pandemic. The 2020 confirmations were meant to take place at the end of June, but following guidance from the diocese, we're hoping that they can take place between Advent of this year and before Lent starts next year. But due to the continuing uncertainty with COVID, we've not set any firm dates for the confirmation just yet. It's also looking almost certainly like we're going to need to deliver the 2021 confirmation course virtually as well. So let me tell you a little bit about our virtual course. So it's going to be a mixture of videos and virtual sessions on Zoom. The videos will all be posted on the Sacred Heart YouTube channel, and I'll try and do that at least a week before each of the virtual sessions. I'll be unfortunately presenting all of the videos. I drew the short straw. And so apologies in advance. Firstly, for the quality of the videos, and secondly, that I'm going to have to make them in quite a rush. So firstly, in terms of quality, the videos are just created on my laptop at home. There is no fancy equipment. So apologies for the keyboard clicks that you might hear as I'm scrolling through the slides. I'll try and see if I can get rid of these in future videos. And so over the next few weeks, I'm just going to be making these videos whenever I get some free time. So they'll probably be quite rushed. So I haven't got the luxury of multiple takes, and I'm sure that there'll be some bits that won't sound very slick, or I might make a few mistakes. And so if I do, please bear with me. Just to tell you maybe a little bit about me in case you're curious. So I'm a doctor. I'm not a proper teacher, or I don't have any background in RE or theology or philosophy. So this is not my area of expertise. I'm definitely not an expert on all of this. But I got involved in the confirmation course because I mainly work with adolescents, and I also happen to do quite a lot of teaching in my role, but that's mainly for university students and other healthcare professionals. So all the material that I'm going to present to you on this course is just based on my own reading and the research that I've done to create this program over the last 2 years. And so I'll say a bit more about some of these different sources a bit later on in this presentation. Maybe before I do, let me tell you a little bit about the course itself. So I was asked to take over leadership of the course about 2 years ago, and I'd been on the confirmation team as a catechist for a couple of years before this. And so when I took over, my top priority was really just to make sure that we could deliver the best possible program for the candidates. And so I did a lot of research into different potential courses and different programs that we could offer. I looked at programs that were being used across the country and even a few that were used in different parts of the world, primarily America, but none of them really seemed good enough. Although there were sort of lots of good courses out there, and I would certainly include the previous course at Sacred Heart among those, none of the courses seemed to offer what I really thought was needed. Just trying to put myself in the shoes of the confirmation candidates, I remember when I was doing my confirmation, there were so many questions I had, and I was really surprised to find that nearly 30 years later, none of these confirmation programs that were in the shops or you could buy on the internet seemed to be answering these really basic questions. And so a lot of the programs to me just seemed very simplistic or just quite uninspiring. So even though I knew it would be a lot of work, I knew the only option was really to try and create our own bespoke, unique confirmation program. And so after months of work, we piloted the course for last year's cohort of confirmation candidates. So let me tell you a bit more about the course. So obviously, because it's designed from scratch, it's unique. And the aim was to try and combine some of the best resources in print and on the internet. And I'll say a bit more about the different sources of information in the next slide. From my previous involvement on the course, I knew that designing a course for confirmation candidates means that you've got to cater for a very wide range of differences in faith, motivation, academic ability. And so on this course, kind of inevitably, there will be some material in each session that some candidates may not be interested in or fully understand at this point in their lives, and that's fine. That's why I've made some of the content in the videos optional, and that usually links to some of the more complicated concepts. Because it was a brand new course, I wanted to make sure that we could carefully evaluate it. And so we designed feedback forms, which we asked the candidates to complete at the end of every session last year. And I'm delighted to say that the feedback was incredibly positive. It was also really constructive. And so this year, I've improved and updated every session, and a lot of those updates have been based on feedback from last year's candidates. The very last thing I just want to say about the course is that one of my hopes for it was that it could prove to be a resource for the future. Last year, we gave each of the candidates their own folder, and every session they would get a handout, a printed copy of the handout, which they could put in their folders. And so by the end of the course, they had a complete set of these handouts, which they could file away almost like a course book. And so I was hoping that at some point in the future, if they were ever curious, some of the candidates might want to flip through their folders again. And if they did, I would hope that they might be able to reconnect with the material in a new and a deeper way. And so this year, all the candidates also have their own folders again. However, because of COVID, we're going to have to try and work out some kind of system so that they can all collect their hard copies, probably at the end, in some way that doesn't really breach the infection control guidelines. One last thing I just want to say from a resource perspective, something I wondered about was whether the course might also potentially be of value to some of the parents of those being confirmed. So I know as parents, some of you may find that a lot of the information on this course is just a reminder of things that you know about your faith already. But hopefully there might also be some new information that might help you to deepen your faith and your relationship with God. I certainly know that my faith has grown hugely over the last couple of years, and I've certainly learned a lot about Catholicism through the process of putting this course together. So let me say a little bit more about some of the resources that I've used. So I've tried to take the information for this course from the widest range and most reliable range of sources. And I've tried to list the main sources on this slide. Basically, they're a mixture of books and YouTube videos. So the first book that you can see there is the Catechism of the Catholic Church, and that summarizes all of the Catholic Church's main teachings and doctrines. UCAT, the yellow book there, presents a simplified version of the Catechism for young people, and it's a really great summary. This book, Catholic Christianity by Peter Kreeft, tries to strike a middle ground between the Green Book and the Yellow Book. And the final one that I looked at a lot was this Catholic Faith Handbook for Youth. It's an American book, it's the 3rd edition, and there's a lot of really good information in there as well. But probably one of my key resources was actually YouTube. And so I listened to lots of podcasts and watched lots of videos from a wide range of Catholic priests, but 4 in particular. Bishop Robert Barron, many of you might be familiar with some of his material. Father Mike Schmitz, Father Stephen Wang, and Father Patrick Cahill. So Bishop Barron and Father Mike Schmitz are American, and Father Stephen Wang and Father Patrick Cahill are from the UK. I particularly recommend for young people a lot of Father Cahill's videos, because most of them are aimed at young people and they're just taken from some of his regular sermons that he delivers, but they're really good and some of them are quite funny, but they're all, as I say, of a high standard. Finally, just the last thing to mention is that whenever I've quoted from the Bible, I've taken quotations from the New Jerusalem Bible, and this is the Bible that they read from at Mass in the UK. We're about halfway through this video now, and so I just want to say a little bit about our aims for the course. So when we were delivering the course face-to-face, we had 5 main aims. We wanted to give the candidates a chance to reconnect with their old friends and to make new ones, to help them find the sessions useful and enjoyable. We obviously wanted to increase their faith, help them live out their faith, and most importantly, help them feel prepared for their confirmation. But given now that we obviously are having to try and deliver this course virtually, I suppose we've only really got 2 main aims. So to help the candidates increase their faith and help them feel properly prepared for their confirmation. But I would also say that we should try and achieve one more, and that's to hopefully try and make sure these sessions can be as useful and enjoyable as possible. But I think it's really important to say that we can only achieve these aims if we're going to work together in partnership. And so that's why I've included this image with the 4 hands. And for me, the hands symbolize partnership. And we need a partnership between 4 key groups of people: the candidates, their parents, their sponsors, and us as catechists. And we all need to do our best if we're going to achieve those aims. So having told you a little bit about the aims of the course, let me try and say a little bit about its content. So the virtual course has 14 sessions, and we've completed 4 of them so far, and they're in green. And the sessions we've covered ask some of the most crucial and fundamental questions, like why bother with faith? Does God really exist? Who is God? And in the remaining sessions, these are the ones we're going to deliver virtually, and they're in black. We will try and cover some other really important topics to build on that foundation. So the first videos that I will be posting will be about prayer. Then we're going to have a session on the Bible and truth. We then move on to doing the right thing. And this looks at the guidelines, the commandments that God has given us for our lives, and crucially, why he gives them to us. We'll then move on to the sacraments, reconciliation, mass, baptism, and finally, confirmation. The virtual sessions are all going to take place on a Tuesday evening, just like the way the face-to-face ones used to. And you'll be pleased to know that we will do our very best to make sure that the candidates have a chance to have a proper rehearsal for their confirmation before it happens. Father Eugene has also very kindly agreed to try and find a way for the confirmation candidates to receive the sacrament of reconciliation at some point before they're confirmed. After the confirmation, we'll have one, possibly even two further sessions. We'll definitely have one session called Living Out Our Faith, and that focuses on the concept of vocation. And I will say, I'll tell you what, I'll say a bit more about the parent session, the retreat, and obstacles to faith in my next slide. So what are the differences between the virtual course and the face-to-face one? Well, actually, they're almost identical. We potentially have two sessions less, but that's only because we decided to combine two sessions on the Mass into one. And this year we thought we'd make obstacles to faith optional and have it, as you saw on the last slide, after the confirmation. And so we decided to make obstacles to faith optional because of the feedback we received from the young people last year. I think out of all the sessions that we offered, this was the one that seemed to have the most mixed feedback. There were some young people who really loved it. They found the ideas really interesting, but other people found it quite complicated, quite boring. And so we then thought we had to do something differently with this session for this year. But just to give you an idea of what we talked about in this session, probably the biggest obstacle to faith for a lot of people is suffering. People very understandably ask themselves, and me included, why would a loving God allow people to suffer? And so particularly in the middle of this coronavirus pandemic and looking at all the chaos it's caused, we thought it would be quite strange not to have an opportunity to talk about this properly in one of our sessions. However, we thought the best way to do this that would still honour the feedback from last year would be to make watching the video on this topic and attending the session optional and only for those who were interested. Last year we had a session for parents about midway through the course. It was mainly an opportunity for the parents to learn more about the course, talk about how their kids were finding it, and also to get to know some of the catechists a bit better. We'd be very happy to offer a parent session virtually this year if you as parents were interested, and we can explore that over the coming weeks. I think the last thing I just want to say on this slide is just a little bit about our half-day retreat or day of recollection. Unfortunately, at the moment, obviously, because of the situation with COVID, it's looking very unlikely that this is going to happen before the confirmation. And in fact, I'm not really sure whether we're going to be able to have it at all. But I certainly hope that at some point there'll be a way for people to get together and have some kind of celebratory event after the confirmation. But obviously, this is going to depend on what's happening with the virus. So let's see. And again, this is something that we will have to try and work out as we're going along. I'm just going to say a little bit about the videos now. There'll be two videos for each session, and I'm going to try and post these on YouTube about a week before each of the virtual sessions. Each one will be shorter than this one. They'll be about 15 to 20 minutes. And the format will be very similar. There'll be me giving a kind of brief introduction and then going through the slides. You'll see me right at the beginning of the talk and right at the end. But I've decided at the moment that it's probably going to be better if there isn't too much movement between the slides and myself. And really, I just want the focus to be on the message rather than me as the messenger. Generally, the first video will contain most of the really important information in relation to that session. The second will probably explore the topic in a bit more detail. In that video, I'll try and help the candidates get to a deeper level of understanding of the topic and go into stuff in a bit more detail. And for some sessions, the second video will be completely optional. And this is the case for our first set of videos on prayer. Ideally, we'd really like the young people to watch these videos with at least one parent or their sponsor. And there's a couple of reasons for this. Hopefully it will encourage the candidates to watch the videos, but also we would hope that if there's anything that's not clear in the videos, the parents or sponsors might be able to help answer some of these questions. But before you panic as a parent or a sponsor, if you think that if there are questions that you can't answer, don't worry. That's one of the reasons why we're having the virtual classes every week. So I would really encourage you to ask your children to bring any questions that they have to those sessions. And between us as catechists, we will do our very best to answer them. And I'm also hoping that Father Eugene will be able to attend some of these sessions as well. And certainly if there's anything we can't answer, I'll certainly be passing them on to him. So I'm sure he's even more likely to attend now. The very last thing I just want to say about these videos, and you may have been doing this already, is please feel free to pause them whenever you need to. So when you see section breaks like this, these are very natural places to pause. And I normally try and space these every 4 or 5 slides. If I was delivering the sessions face to face, I would use these pauses as opportunities for questions or group discussion. And that's certainly what I did in the face-to-face sessions this year and last year. So we're very near the end of this video now, but before we finish, let me just say a little bit about our virtual sessions and the Parents WhatsApp group. So as I've said before, the virtual sessions are going to be on Tuesday evenings, just like the way the face-to-face ones used to be. They're going to be on Zoom, and I will send out a Zoom link on the Parents WhatsApp group every week. I've been assured that the security on Zoom is a lot better than it was at the start of lockdown. There have been a number of updates. The aim of the virtual sessions is quite simply just to consolidate the learning from the videos. Now, because we haven't delivered this program virtually before, we might decide to split the candidates into 2 groups, but I'll let you know more about this in the next few days. Just like before, these virtual sessions will be for the candidates as well as the catechists. And even though they're going to be delivered virtually, we're going to try and make them as interactive as possible. And there'll be opportunities for group discussion, for questions, for perhaps even some quizzes, and we might show the candidates some brief videos, but we're going to make these virtual sessions probably no longer than an hour long. So finally, let me just say a little bit about the Parents WhatsApp group. On this group, I'll be letting you as parents know a few things. When the videos are going to be posted, I'll give you the Zoom links and the details for the virtual classes. I'll let you know any important announcements, just as we've been doing throughout the course so far. And I'm also going to send you the handouts for each session electronically as a kind of interim measure until we can find a way to give your children the hard copies. Also, you can use WhatsApp, as you have been doing, to get in touch with me or with Claire if you have any questions. The very last thing I wanted to do is just show you this slide again about our course aims. So I really hope we can achieve these aims, at least the ones in red and blue. And as I explained earlier in this video, achieving these aims is going to require us all to work in partnership. And that's symbolized by the diagram with the 4 hands. And so there are 4 key partners on this course: the candidates, the parents, the sponsors, and the catechists. And if we're going to make sure the course and the confirmation can go as well as it can, given all the constraints, we're all going to need to do our very best. So I'm confident we will. Let's pray we will, and let's give it our best shot. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. Over the next 8 to 10 weeks, I'm hoping to make at least 2 videos every week for each of the remaining sessions on our confirmation program. And for continuity, I will also try and make some videos for the sessions that we've already delivered face-to-face, so that you have a complete set. If you have time, you're very welcome to join me to watch some of these videos. And if you do, I hope that you'll find them helpful and enjoyable. Thank you.